I've always loved camping. There's something about being out in the middle of nowhere with just the sounds of nature around you. It's peaceful, you know? At least that's what I used to think. This story still freaks me out to this day, and I don't think I'll ever go camping again because of it. It all started when my buddy Mike and I decided to try out a new camping spot. We had been to most of the usual places, state parks, campsites with other people nearby, but we wanted something more private. Mike found this place online. It was in an isolated spot, in the middle of a huge national forest. The site was miles away from any other campers, and it was supposed to be super quiet. Just us and the wilderness. We packed up the car with our gear, tent, sleeping bags, food, the usual stuff, and drove out there. The drive took way longer than we expected because the roads started getting rough. We were driving through gravel roads with nothing but thick trees on both sides, and it felt like we were going deeper and deeper into the wilderness. There were no houses, no signs of human life, just miles of forest. When we finally arrived at the site, it was already late afternoon dot, but the place was beautiful though. A small clearing in the middle of towering trees, with a stream running nearby. The sun was starting to set, and the whole area had this calm, golden glow. We pitched the tent, started a fire, and settled in for a relaxing night. Everything was going normally. We cooked up some food, had a couple of drinks, and just sat there talking. The stars were starting to come out, and it was one of those clear nights where you can see every constellation. I remember thinking how quiet it was, like unnaturally quiet. No sounds of animals or even wind rustling through the trees, just stillness. But I didn't think much of it at the time. We were just enjoying the peace and quiet. That's when we heard it, a twig snapping somewhere behind us. Now, normally, you'd hear twigs snapping all the time in the woods. Animals, maybe a deer passing by, but this was different. It was deliberate, like someone was trying to move quietly, but wasn't doing a very good job of it. Mike and I both froze and looked at each other. I could see in his eyes that he was thinking the same thing as me. Someone was out there. We didn't say anything for a minute, just listening. Then there was another snap, closer this time. I grabbed the flashlight and shined it in the direction of the sound, but all I saw were trees. Mike stood up and called out, "Hello, anyone there?" There was no answer, just silence again. We tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just a raccoon or something, but I could tell Mike was nervous because he kept looking over his shoulder, and to be honest, I was feeling pretty uneasy myself. We decided to call it a night and head into the tent. The fire had died down, and the darkness outside the tent was thick, like pitch black. Inside, we could hear every little sound, every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, but there was nothing out of the ordinary for a while, until about 2 a.m. I woke up to this noise, like footsteps, but they were slow, almost creeping. I lay there listening, trying to figure out if I was dreaming or if someone was really outside. Then I heard it again, soft, deliberate steps. I nudged Mike, and he woke up instantly. We both stayed quiet, listening. The footsteps were getting closer to the tent. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could hear Mike's breathing getting heavier. Then there was this soft, scraping sound, like something or someone was dragging something along the outside of the tent. It was the freakiest thing I've ever heard. We sat there in complete silence, not daring to move. Then all of a sudden, there was a low whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it was like someone was standing just outside the tent, whispering to themselves. Mike took out his gun, which he had on himself. He was pointed it in the direction of the sounds he was ready to shoot, but the whispering stopped. And then there was this long, dragging sound, as if someone was walking away, pulling something heavy behind them. I wanted to unzip the tent and take a look, but Mike shook his head, silently telling me not to. We stayed there for what felt like hours, but it was probably only a few minutes. Eventually, the sound stopped, and everything went dead silent again. Neither of us slept for the rest of the night. We just lay there, listening, waiting for something to happen. When the sun finally started to come up, we decided to pack up and leave as fast as we could. We stepped out of the tent, and that's when we saw it. Right outside our tent, there were deep, heavy drag marks in the dirt, like something had been pulled through the campsite. The fire pit had been completely disturbed, and there were strange footprints around the perimeter of the camp. But the scariest part, about 50 feet away from our tent, we found this old rusty knife lying in the grass. It looked like it had been there for a while, but the blade was still sharp. There was no way we had missed it when we set up camp the day before. At that point, we didn't care what it all meant. We just threw everything into the car and got the hell out of there. The drive back felt like it took forever, and the whole time we kept looking in the rearview mirror, half expecting someone to be following us. We reported it to the rangers when we got back to town, but they didn't seem too concerned. They said it was probably just some weirdo passing through, but I don't buy that. Whoever or whatever was out there that night was watching us. They were waiting for something. Mike and I haven't been camping since. Every time we talk about it, we try to laugh it off, but deep down, I think we both know how close we came to something really, really bad happening.